Well, everyone, welcome to the 30th annual celebration of Legends of the Brewhouse. And boy, we've got a legend today. I'm Rod Raymond, one of the founders of the Fitger's Brewhouse, and we are celebrating 30 years of being in business as now the Minnesota's oldest craft brew pub, and pretty proud of it. But today, to kick it all off, I'm here luckily with, yes, a true legend, Mike Hoops. Mike was the original brewer here at Fitger's Brewhouse, and boy, we got some stories to tell. So Mike, welcome to our first podcast on Legends of the Brewhouse.
Thanks so much, Rod. It's a pleasure to be here. I really am excited to be included in this, and I appreciate the contact and running back through some of the memories. Boy, those were definitely times of enchantment. I was really happy to be part of all of it.
I think back to when you were working at Lake Superior Brewing, and then you came over and started bartending for us, Tim and I, when we first started. And do you remember those days?
I remember those days like crazy. Yeah, it was an interesting time, fun time. Locals loved to come to that space. You know, the 5-year vacant Rocky Rococo's turned into a cool local bar. It was awesome.
Yep. Well, Dave, or Mike, why don't you walk us through the time when you first came over to the brewery, the brew house, and pitched Tim and I on the idea of maybe actually going into the brewing business ourselves?
Well, I was going to school at UMD. I was studying to be a cartographer at GIS, and during that time, somehow I got busy doing home brews, and then started volunteering my time with Lake Superior Brewing Company. The original founders had some interesting traditions and stories, and I knocked loud enough on the door where they eventually let me in to work for free for a year. It was great. But boy, did I learn a lot of things. And then when you guys were opening up your beer bar, I jumped at the chance to get in there because it was right along the same lines of what I was into.
Wasn't John, weren't those guys using like dairy kettles and things of that nature to make their beer back in the day?
They were using, I think it was dairy equipment. And quite honestly, that wasn't that uncommon for upstarts. New Belgium started that way back in the day. And so that's how it was in those days. And, you know, somebody like me that was knocking on their door, volunteering to work for free for knowledge, it wasn't so tied up in insurance and liabilities and et cetera, et cetera. It was just, they were great times. I remember first time I met Mark Stutrud was over in their brewery, probably with a window peering straight through into the brew house that you guys opened up.
To Mark, the founder of Summit Brewing, yep.
Yeah, 1986, and I was just, I was in my early 20s, and this was a legend unto himself in Minnesota. He started in a garage as well, and he didn't treat me like a kid. He treated me like an equal from day one, and boy, those were great times.
Yeah, you start thinking about your mentors through the time, and boy, Mark was the same thing when Tim and I went down and met with him and talked about all this, and he is one of the founding fathers too. But yeah, I was just thinking, and I know we talked about this earlier, but do you remember when we grabbed that Ryder truck and we just freaking went right straight to Colorado, and they make like reality TV shows on opening up those garages and seeing what the hell's in them. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a crazy thing. I'd finished my schooling, and I remember sitting down with you and the other founder, Tim,
yep,
and saying, hey guys, do I have to go sit in front of a computer and digitize maps, or you guys are talking about opening a brewery? You want to do that? And you guys were like, it didn't take overnight, but it was like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this, and you're going to be our head brewer, and here's your $17,500 a year offer, and I jumped at it. I didn't care. I mean, I was like, I want to be a brewer, and I was well aware that you guys were upstarts, and it's like, okay, how do we do this? And of course, by this time I'm maybe 23 or something, and I don't know any better. And quite honestly, you guys don't either. But here we are. We're going to do this, and away we go. And I find some used equipment in Colorado, and somehow we decided that's what we should go after. It was with a company in Glenwood Canyon, Glenwood Springs, Colorado.
Yep.
Started by Bill Carver. He had one in Durango as well, and it was an English-made system that had a lot of visual appeal, that was somewhat allotted to the budget that we were working with. And it's like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, let's do this. So I think you were talking about going on a trip to Colorado anyway. So I said, hey, Rod, why don't I just go with you, and we'll get there. And rent a rider and load it up and bring it home. And it's just crazy stuff.
That was,
like
I
you
remember
said.
it was $30,000 for all that equipment.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Boy, that's amazing. And what a great contact that was too, because the guy that was running Glenwood Canyon Brewing Company for the Carver family, Ken Jones, his name was. He turned out to be a long-term colleague and mentor of mine, and I think he just recently retired a few years ago. But yeah, I went out there and worked with him for days, and then throughout the whole setup, which is another conundrum of a story that was awesome. He was on the other end of the phone line anytime we had a question, helping. It was wonderful.
I just remember when it was one of those garage storage units. We opened up the garage door and we looked, and it was as far as the eyes could see was just a sea of hoses and nuts and bolts and wood-clad brewing equipment. And we're just like, you and I, our jaws just dropped, and let's do it, man. We just started loading it up in the back of that truck, and just boxes and boxes of stuff. Boy, was that was the story. And then you shuffled it home, and we unloaded it we took the windows out and threw it into the Fitger's complex, and plumbers were hired, and boy, like you said, you had those guys on the other line, and you just kept going until it was done.
Yeah, and it was the beautiful thing. There was no stopping. It was, it wasn't, internally we were probably all frightened beyond belief, but it was just no stop. We can do this, and we did, and it was good energy, and let's put this together, and all of a sudden, boom, there was a brewery that in theory was going to function.
Yeah, because when we went to hook the local plumbing onto it, we discovered it wasn't American threading, and nor was it metric threading, but it was this unique, weird English threading, a third type of threading. So we couldn't screw things on. Remember that, Mike?
I do remember that.
Oh my God.
That was eye-opening for both of us, and anybody we spoke to here, we're talking. It's like we're speaking a foreign language that they had zero interest in learning.
Exactly.
So that was a challenge.
Well, let's talk about. Do you remember that? I mean, we didn't talk about this, so this is new for me too. Do you remember the very first beer you made in that system, or not?
I do. I do. I've been thinking a lot about it, and it was interesting because earlier we were talking a little bit about the network and how in those days you picked up the phone, you called, and people helped, and there was no questions. And we somehow, the three of us got this, and all the help from the tradespeople, got this thing set up, and in theory it was going to operate. Well, what my memory holds is that I don't remember what the original brew was going to be. My guess is it was probably like the original Starfire Pale Ale or something.
Right.
But we had a problem with the glycol system, and it killed the yeast. So what we did in turn is we spoke with another brewer that we trusted in the area, got some different yeast, and ultimately that was a little bit more akin to dark beer. And who makes dark beer on their first beer? Nobody. Well, we did. And Petroglyph Porter was born.
So Petroglyph was, I know it was one of the first famous beers you made, but I didn't realize it was the actual very first beer you made. I would have thought
it was absolutely
or something. Wow, cool. And it's all because the yeast strain failed.
Yeah, exactly. Which we had a machinery fail on the glycol, and it killed the original yeast. So we got a sub, and it ended up being a great yeast for that system, which is in the English tradition of open top fermentation, and it worked out great. And this yeast did a great job with dark malt. So yeah, it was Petro, and boy, it was just a beautiful beer. And it's, to this day, it's still one of my favorites that was ever made. I don't know how it happened. We were in no business to make that all happen, but we did, and it worked.
Yeah, that's the best. And then now, guess what, Dylan, current head brewer, is gonna be making it in your name, in your tradition, buddy. He's gonna make it the same way you made it nearly 30 years ago. So it's coming back, and it's part of our recognizing 30 years of being around here, making this crazy business work. So it's stepping up. So
that's super
kept
cool.
Going. You kept manufacturing beer. We kept going crazy on this. The culture was bit. Do you remember some of the anger from some of our customers when they came in asking for a Budweiser or another macro brew, and some of the debates we used to have on, should we just, some of our bartenders were just, come on, we got to carry some Miller Lite. And do you remember some of those debates we had?
Absolutely, I do, and I've been thinking about that a little bit too. And so before I even met you and Tim, I had been going when I was going to school. I was headed out to. I was working in the fishing industry in Alaska every summer, so I would drive through. I would take a detour through Colorado and hang out for a while. That was just part of the trip, and I fell in love with this little brew pub in Boulder, Colorado called the Oasis, which is no longer there. But ultimately, if I remember correctly, this is 30 years old and a lot of beers. So I have like 3 brain cells left. But it seems to me you and Tim were inspired a lot by the Oasis as well. Is that accurate?
That was the Midnight Sun next to the Oasis, but they were all in the same neighborhood. You remember the Midnight Sun?
Oh, absolutely, I do. That was cool. They've got a few of them now.
Yep, that's where Tim and I went, and that's where the idea was born. But then we went to the Oasis like a couple days later. But the brewer of the Midnight Sun met us and spent time with us. But yeah, keep going.
Awesome.
So you three
yeah.
cells later, yeah.
So we were all on the same page, thinking, okay, this craft beer is what we want to do, and you know, the mainstream domestics, made good or bad, that wasn't really much of an intent. We were interested, all 3 of us, with you guys driving the ship, were interested in craft beer, you know, the new thing, the craft beer, and yes, people came in and this new beer bar, and where's my Bud Light, or where's my Mick Golden, or whatever they wanted. All good beers per style, but it's something that we opted not to serve. And yeah, people were angry, and people had to tell us why they thought we should be doing something different, and we just had to deal with it. And you know, here we are in this little stone surrounded bar, you know, with decorations of craft beer and local. Some of them are donated by local friends in the area, and it was all about craft beer and European beer, and you know, for years we've been ordering in as much. It was hard to find at that time interesting beer, and that's how we started. But yeah, people were not happy by any means. Some people.
Yeah, people, stories. Yeah, some. Others were, you know, some of the local brewers. Well, so Mike, the Brewhouse is, you know, obviously famous for its beer, and you're the guy that started it all, but it also is kind of famous for its people and the connections it made. And you met a special lady when you were working here, wasn't it? Is that the case?
Yeah, it was a good time, and it was the original Brewhouse was all about the people. Quite honestly, your beer bar that you guys set up, and then originally the brewery for years, and it took a long time before people. It was a local hangout place for a very, very long time. It took a long time for people out of the area to find out and think how cool it was too, which affected direction, good or bad, doesn't matter, both. But yeah, we were all in our early 20s. And you know, there was a lot of things that happened. And yes, I did meet somebody ultimately that I met my wife there. She was going to school. I was going to school. Or nearly done, and you know, we started hanging out, spending some time together, and decided that was a direction we wanted to stick together. and ultimately, when I left the Brewhouse, I moved to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Running after her and deciding I was going to try to open my own brewery there. Ultimately, which was a great experience. But ultimately I was offered a position in Minneapolis and took that one. And then we both moved to Minneapolis together, and we're still together today.
That's great, Mike. Well, geez, like, I know you're busy now, but you got this great brewery town hall and all the stuff you're doing down in Minneapolis. It's just, hey, I know I've said 100 times, but thanks again for all you do, and it's great to bump into you at the festival, you know, this summer. And boy, I'll tell you what, you're a legend, man, and it's been fun having you as a friend, and you know, keeping us on the straight and narrow over all those years, and more stories to come in the next 30, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy to talk about. I agree. As I said earlier, I'm so blessed to be part of all of it, and it was the right chemistry of people that worked doing the right things in the right area at the right time, and God, I'm so happy to be part of it, and still doing it today. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Mike Hoops at Town Hall, and once again, Mike, thanks for your time today, and hey, cheers to 30 more years, my friend.
Here's to you, Rod. I hope that we're together in another 30. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, partner. Goodbye.
All right, see ya.